As it's our wedding anniversary, I thought the best way to celebrate would be to spend half an hour talking about training to advertise my business because I'm the best husband ever. At least I remembered this year.
This is true.
So today I'm going to ask you questions because you used to be very fat, didn't you?
Yes.
How fat were you, Jess?
I think at my heaviest I was 15 stone 1. So that put my BMI at about 35.
Were you 15 stone 1 or are you coping? Were you heavier than that?
I never, so I used to be obsessed with the scales.
Okay.
So I never remember the scales reading anything higher than that. But that
That's big.
was, yeah.
How tall are you?
Well, at the time I was 5'4.5". I'm now 5'5" because I've lost so much weight. My body is expanded. It's grown. I've grown taller now that I'm not carrying so much weight.
Well, it's not that. That's posture change.
Yeah,
Most likely.
that's true.
It's most likely a postural change.
But yeah, no, my BMI was about 35, 36, something like that.
Because morbid obesity starts at 40, doesn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the obese category.
Mm. And then I fixed you because I'm this toxic person, aren't I?
Yeah, well, the summer before we met, I bust my ankle. I was carrying a really heavy bag and I was camping. I think I had the tent on my back, and my foot went down a rabbit hole and I bust my ankle, and I spent that summer hobbling around on crutches, and I had sores on the palms of my hands from the crutches. And then I remember getting back into my car after I had my boot off and could drive again, and you know how your car seats hug you a little bit. When I sat in my car and the car seats hugged me, the fat at the top under my bra strap touched the fat on my hips.
Ooh.
And
Was it summer?
yeah, it was kind of
Oh,
September, so it was
so
one
it's
of
all
those
clammy.
Indian summers. Yeah,
Mm,
and
nice. That's
I
a bit racist.
no, it's a real term.
I know.
I I remember just sitting in the car and thinking, I can't do this anymore. I was in so much pain, and I'd bust my ankle because not only was I carrying a heavy bag, but I was so heavy and I wasn't strong to catch myself. When we met, I think you remember, like I'd roll my ankle at the slightest thing.
I don't think it was that. I think it was a fear because you wouldn't roll your ankle as such. It's just when you would get off balance, you had this like deep-seated fear of breaking or twist or badly spraining your ankle,
Mm.
which made you. Do you remember that year it snowed? The
Yeah,
beast from the east snowing, and
yeah,
we went out for a little walk, and you were like Bambi.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah, but you were fine then because you've been training a while, but it was that still
yeah,
that psychological damage from being so fat.
yeah. And the fear of
Yeah,
of just falling over would really hurt me.
which is an interesting point actually, the scars that one carries from being so overweight, because at that point we were only a few months away from our wedding, and you've been
Mm.
training hard, but you'd lost a lot of weight. I think you were probably like in the 11s at that
Yeah,
point.
high 11s.
Yeah, and you've been lifting weights. Like your deadlift was better then than it is now.
Mm.
So you're perfectly competent physically, but you just that history of of falling and twisting your ankle, it completely ruined that lovely early
Yeah,
morning walk that we had, didn't it? The
yeah.
fear, and it doesn't. And that's not like to say, oh, being Mr. Abuser here or anything. Like yeah, I felt
It
bad for you. I
really
felt
made,
really bad for
yeah,
you,
yeah.
like because it was a really special. We're probably never going to have anything
That
like that.
snow.
Well, yeah, because climate change is a thing allegedly.
Yeah.
So we're probably never going to have that again. But
But so yeah, after that fat touching fat
yes,
incident in the car, I decided things needed to change. And I was sharing a flat with a girl at the time, and we both decided to do a bit more. So I think we went swimming. I did swimming as kind of rehab for my ankle.
mm,
I think I went 3 or 4 mornings a week, and then it moved from swimming to like spin classes, and
mm.
then it moved from that to like body pump classes. And I was going 4 mornings a week. And I think by the time I met you, I had been going to the gym regularly for about 5 or 6 months, but I hadn't made much progress because my diet was still all over the place and I was doing exercise experience stuff.
You had been going that long because I specifically asked you how long you've been going to
Yeah,
make sure that you were committed to training before I
yeah,
was considered dating you properly.
yeah.
Um, No, because you came to my gym, didn't you? And we sorted you out. But would you
Mm.
think it's fair to say that you actually train less now than you did back then when you were in that exercise experience phase, going to classes, swimming and things?
Yes and no. So N- no, I'm more active. I spend more hours of my week active now than
Yes.
I did back then.
Well, describe a typical day back then, when before we met.
Before we met,
Yeah,
well,
like just before that. So,
yeah.
because this is key to the sort of people who probably listen to this. I don't know, like only maybe 10 people listen, but I reckon of eight of the 10 listeners this will be important for. How were things when a typical, because you were training a bit.
So I had an office job that started at 9 and at half 5, and I would do all of my training before work
Why?
to get it out the way
Why did you want to get it out of the way?
because it wasn't something I particularly enjoyed. I enjoyed swimming, but I had a deep
Why did you enjoy swimming?
because I had this deep down knowledge that it wasn't really that hard. And especially how I was doing it, I wasn't getting that much of a stimulus from it. So yeah, so I would be at the gym for 6 o'clock, or
Right.
maybe half past 6, and out by 8. So I'd be in the pool for maybe an hour.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
6 to half 8.
well, half 6.
Half 6 to half, still 2 hours. I suppose you've got a shower and
No, I was probably out by 8,
okay.
maybe a bit after that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, fine.
Um. So yeah, as I say, I probably went. I think I went 4 mornings a week.
You're describing a typical day, not your swimming routine.
Yeah. So four mornings a week, I would go to the gym for an hour.
Typical day singular. Describe a training day.
Okay, I would go to the gym. I would get to the pool, swim for an hour, get out, drive to work, eat my overnight oats at my desk, ready to start work at 9 o'clock.
Hmm.
Work till 1. We had a fixed lunch break, and possibly 2 or 3 days a week, I would go for a walk at lunch break on my lunch break because we had an hour for lunch. Uh, Finish at half past 5, drive home, do nothing, or do some after work activity that didn't involve physical activity of any description. So I was active for an hour in the morning, 4 days a week, and half an hour at lunchtime, 2 or 3 days a week.
I know we don't do things like tracking steps, although I've gotten into a bit of a habit of doing it now out of
Mm.
curiosity more than anything. How many steps do you reckon you did?
On average, maybe 6,000 a day.
Still quite a lot. Do you think? Because when I was like, just to
Yeah.
quantify this, going back 2 years when we were really stressed with business and
Mm.
life and everything, and I was on a non gym day, I struggle to break 4,000.
So I think it's very different when you're actually in an office and you walk back and forth to
Oh
the
yeah,
toilet,
that stuff that
back,
doesn't count.
yeah, back and forth to the kitchen, back and
Yeah,
forth to the printer.
yeah,
That you're probably doing 500 steps in an hour because you go to the loo, then you go and get a coffee, then you
yeah.
like you
Because you're
do.
pretending to work, aren't you? Because that's
Yeah.
what employees do. Yeah. Okay, fine. Well, that's good.
So yeah, so I probably did break that. Although at the weekends, if I didn't do anything, there were days where I didn't break 1,000 steps. So
Surprised you didn't get like a DVT and have a pulmonary embolism and die.
and well, I had investigations for one when we first met, and I
Yeah,
had
you
one,
did.
didn't I?
Well, no, your D dimer was
Was that?
borderline, but
Oh,
your risk factors were such that
yeah.
they gave you the blood thinning medication that if you banged your head would kill you.
Mm.
So it's actually balanced probabilities. You probably did have one, yeah.
So can I go back to your question?
Yes, typical day.
No, am I
Oh,
more? Do I train
oh
more
yeah.
now?
The next question was going to be now. Describe a day. Was your day look like? What
What
does
does
your
my
day
day
look
look
like
like
now?
now?
Yeah.
Well, my days are much more consistent. I We get up at 5, feed the kids, and by 6 o'clock I'm out the house for an hour. And that's on my feet, either walking or running, or some combination of the two, and I'm back by 7 o'clock. And then you go out for an hour, give the kid give the kids a snack about 8, drop Connie off at nursery, start work at 9. Sometimes I go into the office. Um, if I'm at the office, I will go for a walk at lunchtime. There's some, I don't know, I've only been in my job a little while, so I don't know the area very well. So it's quite nice just to walk around and find somewhere new. There's a nice farm shop down the road that I'll wander down to. So I'm in the office 2 days a week. On the days that I'm not in the office, I pick Connie up on my lunch break, which is only around the corner, but I walk. And then after work, um, it depends on whether I'm going to the gym or not. So I go to the gym 2 days a week, which I normally walk to the gym. So there's another
Mm-hmm.
45 to 50 minutes of walking plus an hour at the gym. So time at the gym much reduced,
Mm-hmm.
probably less than 2 hours a week.
Mm.
Active time, well, at least an hour and a half to 2 hours a day
That's the
is the
key,
gym
isn't it?
time.
It's the
Mm,
walking. People do underestimate just how much physical activity is involved. The problem is they believe that it's not training or it's not physical activity unless it leaves you, laying in a puddle of sweat, blood, and urine, vomit. But actually, that sort of training doesn't have a place at all in the way that we do things, does it? It's
mm,
just this massive increase to baseline activity through walking. And interestingly, both of us have started walk running now. Like walking in the morning is typically not enough.
mm-mm.
I just want to, I just get bored of it, and I was like, oh, I'll just run now. Um,
Yeah.
Not fast or anything.
Or far.
No, like a mile, if that.
Yeah.
But it's something. And then obviously the lifting on top of that. And I think a lot of people aren't prepared for it either. But the fact of the matter is, and unless you're gonna obviously not applicable to you because well, it is applicable to you because women take steroids too. But unless you're gonna shoot yourself full of all sorts of not like junk drugs and things, you're not gonna get into the sort of shape that you want to get in aesthetically speaking, unless you have this very high baseline level of physical activity. And do you know what? People say they don't have the time for it. They do. We've got two kids. When you're not working, you're letting me work, if that makes sense, because obviously I've got the business. I've got to look after the kids during the day.
Mm.
So when you're not working, I'm working. And when you're working, I'm looking after the kids and stuff. So we don't have a lot of time. What do we cut out, Jess? What do we not do that typical couples do, for example?
Watch the telly so much. Honestly, I think lion. There's probably your answer. We kind of split our evening, as it were. Like we have a long morning time before the start of the day, and it's not to get it out of the way. It's because if anything else happens in the day, we've already safeguarded our active time. So the fact that we get up at 5 and I don't start work till 9 when I'm at home and I leave for the office at 8, we've got 3 or 4 hours to do a good breakfast, to do an hour's worth of activity each separately. Um, and I mean, unless if it wasn't 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd walk with the kids. I don't really want to be out with them at that time. But yeah, we just don't lie in and take ages about.
Do you know there's a one of those trite inspirational YouTube videos that I used to listen to. I used to listen to it a lot actually when I was at university. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's got like 5 or maybe 6 life lessons. I don't know. I've not listened to it for a long time, but one of them is don't waste your mornings.
Mm,
And so sleep for 6 hours, and you've got 18 hours. 18 hours, you can do a lot in 18 hours. Is basically what we're saying, but don't waste your mornings. I actually looked into the origin of why he thinks that, and I told you about this the other night, didn't I? About Reg Park.
oh
When
yeah,
Arnold went to live with Reg
yeah.
Park, when he was, I believe, still a teenager, late teens, after he'd done his national service, the Austrian army, or maybe before, I don't know. Anyway, point is, he went to live with Reg Park. Now, basically, Reg said to him, "You can do whatever you like in the evening. You can go to bed as late as you want, but we're going to be train. You're going to get up at 4:30, and we're going to be training at 5:30."
Mm,
And yeah, he very quickly started to make better use of his evening time, wind down and things, and less staying up very late and stuff. But that's a classic example of getting up, getting training, and
mm,
and doing something. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying lift weights at that time in the morning. Neither of us like doing that, do we?
no,
But the, certainly don't waste the morning time. And this isn't any of that hustle bro crap because we're not into that, are
no.
we? Like we just get up because well, why not?
Yeah, a couple of observations on that. Having talked to ladies in the office, they actually find their evenings really boring because
I find my evenings boring. It ends at 8 o'clock.
yeah, well, and they say by 7 o'clock, once they've had tea, they're like, oh, what we're going to watch on the telly, what we're going to do. So splitting our evening and having time in the morning and time in the evening makes a big difference. Secondly, the thinking time of walking. is massive, because I don't know about you, but when my stress is high, my desire to be physically to train,
Mm.
it goes down. And that walk, to be able to think things through and just have that clear time to myself, is I couldn't be without it now.
Walking helps me with that, not really manage my stress, because my stress isn't typical stress, is it?
No.
It's yeah, mental disorder stress. But no, the walking time for me is for material ideas. So I'll get, yeah, I write all my emails, the ideas for emails, ideas for books, ideas for podcast subjects. All of these whole issues of the Phil Tyman letter I've composed in my head
Mm.
whilst walking.
Well, yesterday after my walk, I came home and we had a whole conversation about autism in adults, didn't we? Because I'd just had
Yeah.
quiet time to think about it, and I was like, "What do you think about this?"
Yeah, we probably shouldn't broadcast that
Oh, no,
conversation.
no, no. But no, we won't. But the point is that it gives me time to percolate ideas and actually form them into something whole. The last thing I was going to say is, um, we were chatting to a guy at the gym the other day who got a puppy who you can't walk a puppy when they're really young, apparently. And he said he'd stopped walking and put on loads of weight. And it was like nothing else had changed, but it became this cascade failure. And I know that walking for me just cements it in
Yeah.
like health and fitness in my life.
Well, yeah, it elevates training to the level of a non-negotiable. So we all have
Yeah.
non-negotiables in our life. We need to sleep, otherwise we die. We need to eat, otherwise we die. We need to work, otherwise we don't get food, therefore we can't eat, therefore we die. Or we end up on welfare. Same difference in the UK these days. Yes, I'm now a socialist. Um, you need to elevate training to the level of one of those non-negotiables. Too many people treat training like a hobby,
Mm.
kind of like how, because we need to get back onto your life story really, but kind of
Yeah.
like how you saw it, except it was something you didn't want to do because you didn't enjoy it, but it was like a low priority task, something that you would do if you had the time for it, rather than something that you would make time for. Like nobody in their right mind would say work is only something I do if I have the time for it. Oh, I only sleep if I have the time for it. Unless you're one of those idiot hustle bros on LinkedIn.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, you need to elevate it to the level of a non-negotiable, and the way to do that is with this daily walk without fail, because you from then the desire to do other things flows, and then you figure out ways to integrate the walking with the gym. Like we walk to the gym
Mm.
specifically to do so that cut, that's just like time blocking stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we, anyway, back to your story. So you were doing your exercise experience classes sort of stuff, but still not particularly active, weight loss stalled, and then you met me. Then
Yeah.
what happened?
I think I think it training became a bit novel for a while, obviously training with you.
Next, you're trying to impress me.
Yeah. And
I
then
also had a gym.
yeah, this is true. Um
Didn't make any money, but I had a gym.
and it yeah, it was fun training in your gym. And then I guess the bigger change was when we moved in together. I think the bigger change was for you with diet, with what happened.
Oh well, no, that was no. What I did was because like, so I've got a three-stage process for weight loss that I know works for fat people, because a lot of weight loss advice is written by people who've never been fat. They don't understand the mind of the fatty. It's a very specific mind. Uh, First and foremost, they don't understand that all fat people are liars, because they lie to themselves about their situation. And this has been proved in studies where they've gotten fat people to track their dietary intake whilst recording them with like hidden cameras and shit, or even not hidden cameras. And like they know they're being recorded, but they don't write down all the food that they've eaten. So they record that they've eaten less, or they won't record. They lie about the quantity. They'll say they've eaten less of. They'll say they'll admit to eating the bad stuff, but they won't admit the amount that they eat. So basically, people who give weight loss advice don't understand the labyrinthine mind of the porker. And this three-stage process, which I'm actually writing a book on at the moment, summed up as follows: the first thing you have to do is you have to train. Don't change your diet. Train and don't change your diet. The nutritionists will come for my head, but frankly, I don't care what they think. But with fat people, particularly lifting weights, respond really well to weightlifting. because mass moves mass, right?
Mm.
Like within I'm not even joking. Yes, I was 19 at the time. You have to remember, I'd not played any sport as a teenager or anything like that. I played hockey up until the age of 13, but I was in goal
I
because
was
it
going
didn't
to say you
involve
went and
running.
go.
Yeah, because it involved, and I used a specific tactic called walling, which is where the goalkeeper lies down in front. I'd literally, you lie down on your side because hockey goals are quite
Yeah.
small, and you block it that way. Because at that age category, you weren't allowed to like do the hacking where you like flick the like flicks and stuff weren't really allowed.
Yeah.
So it was very effective, and yeah, I just used to lay down. So that was my athletic career. So, but anyway, the point is, I got I think it was 180 kilo deadlift within about 8 weeks or 10 weeks of
Mm.
deadlifting because I was just fat and heavy, and you know it's not impressive because it's nowhere near double body weight. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
it's not an impressive feat. Um, so you respond really well to that, and but then eventually what happens is if you're eating crap, even if you're eating a lot of crap, you don't get the results that you want. Eventually the strength gains peter out because your fat is a hindrance more than it is a help. You also don't get the aesthetic gains. You get some aesthetic gains to keep the dopamine loop going, and you get a bit more muscle and stuff. But what the problem with fat is it obscures the delineation between the different muscle groups, so you don't actually get. You look good in like clothes, but you take your clothes off and you look rubbish, right?
Mm.
You just look rubbish.
Really soft.
Yeah, and yeah, that's soft is the word. So then that inspires one to change their diet. And at that point, what you do is you just clean up your diet. And when I say clean up your diet, you know what I mean if you're listening, one of the 10 listeners, you know that. If you're smart enough to have listened 21 minutes into this podcast, you are smart enough to know what good food and bad food is. So you just get rid of the vast majority of the bad food and eat the good food. But don't worry about the quantity because you're fat. So you still want to eat too much.
Mm.
So again, the nutritionist is going to hate me for this. Like, don't track calories, don't do any of that. Just eat better. And you know what that is. Don't pretend that you don't. You're going to pretend that you don't because you're fat and you lie, because fat people lie. But don't pretend. Stop lying to yourself. And then finally, you'll get results from that. You will lean out a little bit because although we don't believe in calorie tracking as an efficient and effective way to, or indeed psychologically healthy way to lose weight, it is how weight loss works. You will you will start to lose fat because the cleaner food is 9 times out of 10 less calorie dense, unless you substitute everything with like cheese.
Mm. Yeah,
But
like me, a great cheese on
yeah,
everything.
but if you're doing the sensible thing,
Mm.
chicken, rice, broccoli, that's pasta, that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
without all the sauces, without all the ultra processed crap that you've been hitherto eating, your calorie intake will go down. Therefore, you will start to lose fat and you start to lose better. But then again, you'll hit another wall. You'll hit another wall, and that's when you start to slowly reduce the quantities.
Yeah.
And that's when you start. So what we did when we moved in together was I basically allowed you. I allowed we had to start at stage one, which is just train. I wanted to get training, you to cement training, which meant that I got fat
Yeah, because
because
you
because
ate too
I
much.
yeah because again I'm a former fatty. I have porky brain. So if there's bad food in the house, I will eat it and I will lie to myself about it.
And we've gone around that cycle many times through
Yes.
our marriage, haven't
Yes.
we?
We're not going to talk about that today though.
Okay.
That's an episode in of itself. If you want
Yeah.
to come back as a special guest again, you can. And we can
Thanks.
talk about the cycle. But for now, so yes, that was what we did. So I got a bit fat, but you got training locked in though, didn't you?
Did. And I didn't think there's been a considerable period other than a pregnancy
Yeah.
where I've not trained since.
Yeah, no, you've sorted it out. Everything's been good. And then it was just a case of we cleaned up, and then we had the wedding, so we did a really stupid diet,
Yeah, we
didn't we?
did.
We did a really stupid diet. Don't do. I'm not even going to describe the diet because it's that stupid. I found it on some dark corner of the internet. It's very effective at getting you extremely lean, but it caused my blood to stop clotting properly,
Yeah.
which caused my retinas to bleed.
Yeah.
So not a smart diet. I got good abs though, didn't
Mm.
I? They were good abs.
Yeah.
Um,
And I fit into my wedding dress.
you did. You did, but now you're smaller than you were at the wedding.
I am.
So what's changed then between the then and now?
Um, Two things. One, exercise. Well, I've stopped thinking about exercise. Activity has just become a normal part of my life, and I don't dread it, and I actually feel good for the benefits of it. Like, when was it? January, we went to Butlins, and I needed a wee before a show started, so I ran to the toilet
Mm.
And just I had my big steel toe cap boots on,
Hmm.
and just the ease with which I, light jog to the toilet past all the hippos waiting to.
Oh yeah, Butlins is like going on
Ah,
safari,
it
isn't it?
is. It's mad. But yeah, like, and I even did. I think twice. We were there 4 nights, and I did two laps of the site. I think it was like a mile and a half around the perimeter of the site.
Mm.
And that just wasn't a big deal. And again, it was early in the morning, so by 8 o'clock, I had my hard exercise, as it were,
I remember
out of
when
the
I did
way.
my laps around the park. Did you get weird looks from like the security people and stuff who were like, "What is this guest doing? Out doing
Yes,
exercise?"
don't remember anyone being out.
I saw the security.
Oh, did
I
you?
came out after you though, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, but no, I was
No.
getting weird looks from the staff.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
who is this guy? What's he doing?
Yeah. There's no one around. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like a big deal for me. I've had breakfast, had a coffee, do a run, come back, have a shower, get on with my day.
And if you go to the gym, you go to the gym. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah. The other thing that I genuinely didn't believe was possible was this idea of stopping eating when you're full. And I know that might sound crazy, but I didn't believe that my body was capable of telling me when I was full.
That's because it wasn't.
No.
Like physiologically, it wasn't. There's again beyond the scope of the podcast, but there are like hormonal reasons,
Mm,
and psychological reasons for why you when you're obese,
yeah.
you genuinely don't know that you're full. Like your ability to go, "Oh, I'm full now," is short circuited until the point that you physically cannot put anything else in your stomach.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah. And again, probably beyond my understanding, but even like there's more sugar in like a slice of white bread than there is in a bit of cake. And when you eat processed foods that have got weird levels of stuff in, and you're like, well, I've just had a slice of toast, but my body thinks I've had like all this sugar.
Hmm.
Like
We're
trying
getting
to
too close to diet. That's not talk.
fine. Basically, the idea that I could eat food and be full and not crave all of these like processed foods every minute of every day. And like yesterday, I took Marcus out for a coffee, and I looked at the whole.
We're still talking about food. I'm going to stop you. We
Fine,
don't talk about food on this podcast because I can't, it bores me. It
fine.
bores me to tears. You know what to eat. You know what not to
Mm,
eat. If you're listening to this, stop it. Stop reading about nutrition. It's just a waste of time.
yeah,
It's just a waste of time. Um, okay, we're going to close off. I've got a question for you.
yeah.
What is, or what do you believe is the most toxic message that's being put out by people in the fitness industry today?
Um,
Go on, say
question:
what you think.
calorie counting.
Okay.
I know we're sticking away from diet, but
No, we can
so
talk about why diet is crap.
sitting in the office, I hear calories talked about all the time, and I see everyone making really shit lifestyle choices based on this belief that they're tracking their calories, therefore doing what they need to be doing.
Happy with that. Great. Then attractive wife. Thank you.